have amazing 4 panelists, and I'm be facilitating this event. And everyone here, including me, we had experience working as a teacher, at least for 2 years, and also some different, we also have another professional backgrounds. So in this session, I would like to talk on the future shape of education, comparing Japan and India, because me and Shinichi is from Japan, and Akansha and Sowmya Goutham are from India. So before going to our main part, which is Fire Chat, I would like to introduce Teach for Japan, Teach for India, and about our school, which means our school where me and Shinichi works. So I would first share my screen. Let me start. Okay, so I think we would have our self-introduction later, individually. So I would first explain about Teach for Japan, where me and Shinichi worked as a teacher. So the vision of the Teach for Japan is creating a world where every child in Japan has access to great education. And we have a slogan, we change the world from the classroom. And what we do in Teach for Japan is we select diverse individuals with a desire to improve education, and we send these individuals to a lot of schools in Japan where has like educational gaps or inequality. We deliver not only classes, but our experience and share our stories as well. And here it says, regardless of whether we have a teaching license or not, as long as you have a passion and desire to improve the education, you can take part in. And we have about 2 years of experience working in the educational fields, which are junior high schools and high schools. And here I can also show you some data. The number 30, here it says that the children's we have taught already is 39,197, and we have about 257 alumni who has experienced working in schools. Oh, my bad, my apologies. But we have about 257 teachers, and we have 149 alumni already. And I'm not really sure if how much you know about Japan. We have 47 prefectures, but among 47, we send teachers into more than 26 prefectures, more than 87 municipalities so far. We have about a decade of history since our establishment, but we're going to expand our impact in the future. So from next, I will give a baton to Akansha, who is from Teach for India and also working as a Teach for All network connector. Can you explain a little bit about Teach for India and Teach for All, plus maybe the Teach for All network connector?
Thank you so much, Haruka. I hope I'm audible. Can you guys hear me? Okay, sure. So just like Teach for Japan, Teach for India is also a non-profit organization that was founded in 2008. So inspired by the Teach for America's journey, our founder Shaheen Mistry, she worked with McKinsey and Company to craft a blueprint around the belief that all children must attain an excellent education. And we are part of the Teach for All Global Network, which is a growing group of independent organizations across 60 plus countries that are working on expanding educational opportunities in their respective nations, just like Teach for India, Teach for Japan, Teach for China, and so on. Teach for India began its operations in 2009 with the same audacious vision. And we also have a similar fellowship, which is a 2-year paid opportunity to teach children from low income backgrounds in public as well as private schools in 8 major countries in India. And today we are a movement of 900 fellows currently teaching 33,000 children in India and close to 4,500 plus alumni who are working and collectively reaching 50 million children across India. So I think our alumni reach 1 in 10 children across India, which is a huge feat for us. So that was a little bit about Teach for India.
Thank you so much, Akansha. So this is our brief introduction where we belong to and worked. And we're now going on to our main dialogue, Fire Chat. And as you may probably already know, our main, biggest theme is about our future shape of education. And we have here amazing teachers from Japan and India. So we would also like to compare educational system in India and Japan, listening to both stories from each country. So I would like to pose some questions to our panelists. So I would like to first ask you to Sowmya. Can you also briefly introduce yourself? And also, I would like to hear your story on impact of social and political factors on educational systems. And my questions I would like to hear from you. An answer is, how does that need to be changed? It's a big theme and questions, and I would like to hear some from your professional experience and your background.
Hi, Haruka, and thanks to everybody here. So, my name is Sowmya, consultant. I'm a writer, and and now I work in media literacy and uh, so this is a very topic that people could write their PhD thesis, and I'll speak a little bit about which can serve as an example for a lot of other
Sowmya,
education.
can you hear
And
me now?
oftentimes, the social and political factors that shape in India in recent times, we see that there has been
Hello, Sowmya.
a right wing.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Can you
hear
hear me
you,
now?
but I can hear you now, but I had some difficulties hearing from you. Maybe because of the internet connection, or
Can you hear me now?
a little better, but could
Okay,
you,
but
if it's kind of, if you're in a bad connection, you can also turn off your camera if that helps you talk.
I've turned off my now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Okay. You can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was look at education system and the impact that social and political factors. So I will be sharing a little bit about the Indian context, which serve as an example around the world as well. So in India, there has been a very climate right-wing Hindu nationalism that has emerged in, and what that is, it has cultivated a sort of unhealthy environment, especially in Indian school education systems. And in recent times, we've seen that teachers and students from Muslim communities have, been at the receiving end of a lot of violence and harm. And we've also seen that when we look at school curriculums in India, a lot of key parts of science and history chapters or themes that are important to know about science have been erased. One example that I can give is 2021-22, Darwin's theory was removed from the exam 9 and 10 students. And in 2022-23, the topic of evolution itself was completely removed from school textbooks according to the report. So what we've seen powerful political players and institutions of power in India have been cultivating this environment of right-wing Hindu nationalism, and they have used Indian curriculum, school education curriculum in particular, to kind of drive their agenda. And we will see more prominently this year in 2024 because national elections coming up as well. And to me, this is such an important thing that we don't talk about often because one, it can be unsafe just to talk about it, and the other is that a lot of people like to remain apolitical, but we are forgetting that society and politics influence a lot more than we acknowledge. So I think India, I would say that a lot of has been influencing education systems. Yeah, we see even in the US, we are seeing that play out in, and that it has also been happening in a lot of countries. So, to answer your question of how I think looking at political ideas dominant in each country and thinking of what do we need when we look at politics and thinking about what are political systems, enhancing education or disrupting excellent education is so important to pay attention to.
Thank you, Sowmya. I'm sorry for bothering you. I can hear you sometimes and sometimes not, probably. So can you check your internet connections or maybe check your setting, or I don't know how it can be solved, but I can wait later and we'll pose a different question later. So can you check your tablet and connect internet connection meanwhile? Yeah. Okay. So we are going to move on the next question to Akansha. So I also would like you to introduce a little bit more about yourself and also the questions I would like to ask you and hear from you is about the school educational system itself and stakeholder engagement. Here I mean like stakeholder, like we have like parents, we have of course teachers and students are also important stakeholder in school, plus like community, local companies, and so on. So how does that need to be the school educational system itself changed by mobilizing stakeholders?
Thank you for the question, Haruka. Just like building on to what Soumya was saying, there are definitely factors which aren't like directly in our control, but there is still like this ecosystem around the student that is much more under control. So I would like to start with this whole thing that we did in our fellowship, right? So we had this thing called student-centered learning, student leadership, peer learning, self-learning. All of these concepts were introduced in our classrooms. So I remember doing differentiation in my classroom. We used to like have children classified as higher order, middle order, and lower order, and we used to group them together. So they used to help each other out. It was also during the COVID pandemic that I was teaching. So fortunately, it was like a blessing in disguise that we got access to a lot of devices that children had access to. So they could use those devices to also check out some of these self-learning, personalized adaptive learning sort of things with using edtech platforms that are there in India. And moving on to a very important thing, because of COVID pandemic or because of various research that has happened in India, a lot of focus has been brought upon foundational literacy and numeracy, and there's a big reason about that. We came up with the National Education Policy, also called NEP, and before implementing that, FLN has been taken up as a national initiative called Nipun Bharat Initiative, which was launched in 2021 by the central government, and it is just to ensure that our students have very strong foundational literacy and numeracy, very strong basics, and something which we also did in our fellowship with the help of bridge curriculum. Even though our students were in higher grades, we ensure that their basics are strong. Moving on to stakeholders, I feel like school leaders and teachers, they've been focused more so, at least in Teach for India classrooms, and eventually even in other classrooms that are non Teach for India. So I'd like to share about what happened in my fellowship journey. So I was working with an assistant school leader, also called vice principal, who also happened to be a Teach for India alum, and she was working very closely with the principal of the school, and all the transformation that happened was mostly in collaboration with her ideas. And I think similar to that, we have this alumni-led organization named Alokit that also teaches. They have like these mass school leader trainings happening across the state of Telangana, where my school was situated. And on similar lines, we used to have this teacher training every Saturday. We used to have teachers who used to come from low income backgrounds, like sit with us, and we used to be trained on same things. Like we used to help them improve their English, communication, etc., and pedagogical skills, lesson delivery skills. So we all work with that in our school, and I've seen alumni leading such organization. There's an organization by the name of People, which is here in Central India. They are training like at a mass scale, like 3 lakh teachers across the state. So there are these projects that are happening, like the microcosm of that in our classroom, plus like something happening at a state level. Moving on, there are a few other things. For example, like project-based learning, hands-on learning. So there's another alumni-led organization called Inquilab Foundation. They used to come every Friday to our school, bring all the workbooks, meaning solar panels, sensors, LEDs, lot of waste products and cardboards, and they used to help our children build stuff. And like they used to come up with wonderful ideas like magnetic buttons, automatic dog feeder, cycle turn indicators, etc. So slowly, the progression is happening in this field. I think it has started with Teach for India classrooms. I've seen them myself, and I could also see that like fellowship is just a launch pad. After the 2 years, once we enter the alumni movement, we go outside and we try to do this in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. So this was a little bit about education per se. I would also like to add about the primary stakeholders around students. Those are parents and the community. So we were discussing about this, right? Like how the strong narrative helps, right? They are the first people who encourage students, who are also going to shape their mindset, right? And that is what we also focused on. We used to do community visits in our fellowship. We used to go to their houses and talk to the parents, talk to them and understand their challenges, etc., and understand how the day of a student goes. in order to also help them overcome a lot of struggles that they were having in their education. So I think I've covered most of it briefly, and definitely the local companies and local organizations and government also have a role to play. And I'm glad that like Teach for India alumni are slowly like getting into all these fields and helping us out.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Akansha. So, thank you. So, I would like to hear different stories from Goutham and Shinichi as well. And Goutham, you're working in a tech field as your professional background. So, I would like to ask you and also Shinichi as well about the technology and innovation in terms of our education, in our education. Because you probably know much better than me, but like we have chat GPT, a lot of technologies, computer. Our students probably have like tablets, notebooks, each student. So I was wondering, what do we like do while technologies like dominate the world? Like for example, in our previous traditional way of teaching, we share our knowledge with students and they learn from us. But they can learn anything from like technology and so on and computers. If you ask questions on ChatGPT, they will answer to you. They will give you much better answer than teachers. So what would be our roles in schools? I would like to hear these stories from your side.
Sure. Thank you so much, Haruka. Do you want me to start, or Shinichi, do you want to go first?
Oh, you go ahead.
All right, super. Thank you so much. So first of all, good afternoon and good evening to all my friends from India and Japan and my fellow panelists. I've known them for a while. They're good friends of mine, and quite grateful that it's a very wholesome panel, because initially what Sowmya spoke about was very critical of the dispensation, while Akansha came ahead and spoke about the good things like that the government has done. So it's kind of like a complete circle. And I'll quickly introduce myself. So my name is Goutham. I did the Teach for India Fellowship from 2015 to 2017. I taught grade 2 and 3 over the course of the 2 years. And I currently work for an organization which is an impact accelerator called Team for Tech, where we work exclusively with nonprofits from around the world. And we offer grants to the nonprofit that's working in the field of education so that they can scale their impact by leveraging technology, right? So we offer a $15,000 grant to our nonprofit partners. And our hope is that they leverage the grant money to scale their impact by harnessing the power of technology. And what we do is, and I handle the Asia Hub, so I'm lucky enough to meet a lot of educators from around the Asia Hub on a regular basis to try and understand where they are with technology in the field of education, right? And if also I understand that there are a few attendees, and if anyone if you would like to know more about what we do, please feel free to find me on LinkedIn. No, so let me start off by kind of breaking the common misconception that technology will make teachers lose their jobs and will run teachers out of business. But if anything, technology makes the role of teachers even more necessary, even more pronounced, because we're currently living in an ecosystem where there is infinite amount of information, right? And the students need a really strong guide, a really strong mentor to kind of show them the right information where they can find and the right information that they need. So the role of the teacher is a lot more pronounced as compared to the past, right? And if you look at what technology has done, is it has enabled an ecosystem where personalized learning thrives, right? And it finally has reached a stage where every parent, thanks to the, this AI, and there are a lot of chatbots and things like that. So it has reached a stage where individual attention for every student is a reality, right? And initially we used to struggle with teacher-student ratio, where one teacher would handle 40 students, 50 students, sometimes even 100 or 150. But now with technology, we've reached a stage where there's individual attention possible for every student, but not necessarily from a teacher. The individual attention is being provided by an element of technology, right? So that is where we are. And as far as what a teacher needs to do, right? And let me categorize this into three phases, right? And as far as technology and education is concerned, there are usually three phases that any organization or a school or a government entity needs to go through, or ideally goes through. So phase one of tech adoption is usually where devices or accessibility is created. This is usually setting up the Wi-Fi, getting devices, tabs, computers, and so on and so forth. Phase two of this journey is where technology becomes a part of day-to-day, where teachers are able to handle the technology, students are able to handle the technology, the government, the school ecosystem, the stakeholders in the school are able to handle the technology, right? And phase three is the end goal, and it's the idealistic destination as far as technology and education is concerned. It is where the school ecosystem and the education ecosystem is really leveraging the technology, where they're using technology for more research, for different kind of projects, for different kind of competitions, and maker space, labs, things like that, right? So there are essentially three phases, and even at Team for Tech, we follow these three phases. And if any of you in the audience are a part of an education ecosystem, just ask yourself where you are in this phase. Are you at a phase one? Are you at a phase two, or are you at a phase three? Phase one being, yes, we're just trying to still figure out the devices, still figure out accessibility. Phase three is where you've gotten all the accessibility, you've gotten all the devices. Technology is an integral part of your day-to-day, and how you can really leverage that, right? So my message to my friends in the attendees is to really ask yourself where you are in this journey, because the journey is ideally, it should be facing forward, right? Now, the role, this is where the role of a teacher comes in, right? So the role of a teacher is essentially twofold, where the first would be self-skill development. With the advent of technology, the lot of like learning management systems and CRMs that schools are managing, and there are a lot of audiovisual tools and audiovisual devices that the students are invariably exposed to. The teachers maybe not so much. So the first role of the teachers to really familiarize themselves and upskill themselves as far as the latest technology is concerned. And it doesn't have to be all the hi-fi tech, right? It just needs to be the technology that they feel will be relevant to their classroom, will be relevant to the school. The second role that the teacher needs to take up is to really understand how they can guide the students as far as the technology is concerned. Because truth be told, not all the students might be comfortable with technology, right? And I remember even when I was in school, I wasn't very comfortable with computers and laptops. We needed a teacher to kind of tell me, this is how a mouse works, this is how a keypad works, and all of that, right? So there's a good chunk of students who might not be that comfortable with technology. So the role of the teacher is twofold, essentially, where they focus on themselves, upskill. Second, focus on their teachers. That being said, now I'll just change little gears to what the current reality of education tells us. Now, as far as the UN report is concerned, close to 90% of the students in the world have no access to internet, and a good chunk of them have no access to electricity. So we are way past, or we are way behind discussing technology for students at a large scale, because close to 90% of students don't have technology, which makes it even more important for teachers, because they are the focal point right now, and they need to make a case for the case of the students, to let the world know, let the educators know, let the technology creators know that the solutions that they offer, the solutions, for instance, let's say XYZ person has a software company that makes software for students. The teaching community has a role to play in letting the tech giants know that, or the education companies know that, the solutions that they offer need to have an offline variant, because not all students have the luxury of internet. not just that, not just the offline variant, but they also need to have low data device. It should be friendly to low data devices, because not all students have fancy devices with a lot of data, right? So data device technology is critical. And I'll just stop by sharing a couple of examples of my experience with Team for Tech, where we worked with this organization called Barefoot College International. They're currently called Bindi International, and they work in the rural communities in Rajasthan. It's in the northwest of India. And we did a project with volunteers from Cadence Design Systems, where the volunteers introduced the women in the rural communities to technology like Lumi 5P to create audio visual tools. And Caption AI. Caption AI helps the women create content. For instance, they would speak in the local language and the subtitles would appear in English, which makes it a very, very strong resource tool for students to kind of understand, and for the education ecosystem as a whole. And another project we just did was with this organization in India called Reach to Teach. They're working for the teachers in Arunachal Pradesh, in the far east of India, where the teachers are still using pen and paper as far as correction is concerned. So we're using OCR tools where whatever the teacher is putting on the paper can get digitized and can get stored as in a digital format, right? So yes, technology is coming in, but the onus will be on the teachers to kind of upskill themselves. And that being said, we have a far way to go, a long way to go as far as having accessibility to technology for a lot of students across the world. Over to you, Shinichi.
Thank you. I strongly agree that students need mentor. You guys hear me?
Yes, Shinichi.
Okay. So even technologies dominate the world. So let me introduce myself a little. Hi, my name is Shinichi. I currently work at a private high school, the same one where Haruka works. So before working at the high school, I was a teacher at the public junior high school for 3 years as Teach for Japan's fellowship program. I attended private schools from elementary through high school, and I have only worked in a public school for 3 years. So I'm not be the best person to discuss Japanese education comprehensively. But so in Japan, the use of information technology devices in Japan has rapidly increased during the COVID time. And this has had a positive effect on Japanese education in terms of technology use, because schools in Japan typically hesitate to start new things. And now almost 100% of elementary and middle schools in Japan have one device per student, which is Goutham told that we finished phase 1. And so we are in the middle of phase 2, I guess. And this technology support Dave as well, because students who cannot come to school can participate in classes online. So I want to say that the use of ICT devices is just a means, not a goal. So it would be beneficial if both teachers and students could use these devices with a clear purpose in mind. And in this day, the role of teachers, I believe, is to provide opportunities for students to believe in their potential and to become partners who run alongside them in their journey. So it may sound idealistic, but that's what I believe. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Goutham and Shinichi. I also strongly agree that our our role or mission for students would be to guide them to what they want to be or what they want to do. Like it will be more like a coach, and then they will find their purpose. We support students find their purposes, and as Shinichi shared, on the way to achieve their purposes, these kind of technologies and innovations can be really good tools. And we got one question, and it's actually a good timing to ask right now because we're talking about technologies. We got a question from audience that in the future of increasing environmental risks, how will digital education change in these subjects for students in the 16 to 20 age groups? Can you probably go some answer to this question? Can you add some hint to this question?
Can you repeat that the question again?
Yeah. In the future of increasing environmental risks, how will digital education change in these subjects for students in 16 to 20 age groups? So about high schools students.
Yeah. No, so I think it's a question of awareness, right? And the way technology will unfold is that with in every section, in every subject going forward, there will be an element.
Gautam, you're on mute.
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I saying I feel like going forward in every okay, I just saw the message. So in every subject going forward, there will be an element of awareness about the environment and the role that us as a generation are creating on the on the environment. And I feel like first it would start with awareness, and high school would be the right age for students to start enacting on the on those changes, right? And on the awareness. And I feel like organizations like Benefit, they're a great example of leveraging technology to kind of create impact on the localized community as far as environmental concerns, environmental issues are concerned. So, which is where the role of non-state actors, essentially non-profit organizations, that is where the role of NGOs come in, right? Because NGOs have the luxury of creating a case for a particular issue or a case for a particular domain, and if there's a best case there, then that's what the government can adopt, right? So, as far as environmental issues are concerned, I feel like going forward in the education, there will be an element of awareness, or it ideally has to be there. And technology makes it a lot more easier to spread this awareness, and it also gives the students a lot of options to explore creativity and as far as teachers are concerned, it gives them like a tool to incentivize students to act on information that they've gathered, right? So going forward, I feel like environmental risks, digital education will be a great platform for change makers right from high school to kind of get out there and start making changes right at the community level. And you can, like I would recommend knowing about Benefit. That's pretty much what Benefit does. They work very closely with the school ecosystem and to enable the students to become solved ninjas. And through the use of a chatbot, they have they give the chatbot gives the students the right tools so that they can go back into their communities and act. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Goutham.
Haruka, you're muted. Yeah. I can add on to it a little bit. There's an increased emphasis on climate education. We also have a community of folks that teach for all. So I think there is an increased awareness already within educators, especially I guess it's slowly trickling into the system. We do see a lot of these really horrific things happening around, and I think it's a necessity to change our curriculum, especially for students in the age group mentioned here. So I can also probably get in touch with Prabhu if he needs to help him understand what is happening on this end, because climate and sustainability is something that I'm also quite interested in.
Thank you so much, Akansha, as well, for adding some different perspectives. So, I actually have the last different team to ask some of you. I'm sharing the screen again. I sent a request, and it will probably coming soon to your screen too. Avani, maybe can you accept my request to share my screen?
No, I have not got it as yet. Maybe can you try to reshare?
Oh yeah, I can reshare it again. There you go. Yeah. Thank you. So one more thing I would like to ask and listen to from two of you here, Swani and Shinichi, which is about Dave. I guess like most of you know Dave because we've been recently have had a lot of discussion on this topic, like diversity and equity, inclusion, and belonging. And as you may probably know, SDGs also have a goal to achieve that we won't leave anyone behind. So I would like to ask you under this topic, will no one really be left behind in education currently? And I would like to hear what you, Sowmya, and Shinichi are working to achieve these goals. Can you maybe go first, Sowmya? Or if she's struggling maybe with internet connection, can Shinichi go first?
Yeah, of course. So, as Haruka mentioned, Dave is really. Oh, you can go. You can talk. Should I continue or should I wait?
I think you can continue. Yeah.
Okay. So as
Can you hear
Haruka
me now?
mentioned, that DAVE, which stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. These are very important issues in education in Japan and also all over the world, I guess. So schools should be places where this can be achieved. DAVE, however, schools tend to be closed off, right? So it can be difficult to achieve this within schools alone. So schools should be more open, allowing students and teachers to interact more with the outside world. So from my experience, when I was in Teach For Japan, I was in a public middle school. So there, the sense of this kind of closure was more obvious. So sometimes, for example, sometimes guest speakers came to give talks to students, but they were invited to teach the students something, not to have an equal conversation. So this doesn't allow students to be aware of Dave. But on the contrary, in my current high school, we do various projects with people from outside. Sometimes we work on project with people of the same age with students, which is a good stimulus for the students. For example, in our current school, so when deciding on school rules or designing uniforms and even when choosing destinations for school trip, students lead projects and engage in dialogue with relevant stakeholders. And speaking of dialogues, another important thing for achieving Dave, I believe, is dialogue. So when two different ideas conflict, it's important to work together to find a third way. And this kind of activity is necessary in schools. And the relationship between students and teacher is often unequal, right? And students' opinions tend to be ignored. Instead, it's important to make a decision together with students, treating them as important members of the school. But by doing this, students can be more aware of Dave in their daily lives, and it will help them to be in the school, and they can feel diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, I guess.
Thank you so much, Shinichi, for sharing. And can you Sowmya hear me right now? Maybe can you hear me, Sowmya? Are you there right now?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's quite choppy. How about right now?
Me now?
I'm sorry, I also had a bad connection. Can you hear me right now?
Welcome.
Can you hear me? Yeah. How about Sowmya's network? Is it working or probably no?
I think he's trying to speak. but we can't hear her.
Okay, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay, I'm assuming you're able to hear me. So I think one of the things when I think about AI is there's a thing that's in DEI and J, which is justice, because many of the spaces that we inhabit, we talk a lot about DEI, but the truth is when we say no child left, the reality is that so many of our kids are behind every day. One example that I want to talk about ASER, a certain report that comes here in India, which measures learning levels of students. And one piece of data that you is that in 2023, when learning levels of children were measured, they found that 25% of teens, 20% of students between the ages of 14 and 18 are still going to grade through text with fluency. I want you to pay attention. These are kids from 14 to 18. They're not even 10-year-olds. They're from 14 to 18 and they're starting to read grade 2 technology. Now, keeping this in mind, as well as what I shared earlier about the state of the impact of cultural and religious and social factors in the education system, we can see that we are failing our kids academically, socially, and emotionally. So when we often talk about DEI, I feel like so many of us are being left behind. And one of this is just the cultural sort of systems that we have built in education that almost always exclusion and discriminatory to people who come from oppressed communities, be it oppressed castes, children with disabilities, or girls and people from queer community, and the Muslim and Christian communities in India, among so many others. So when we keep all of this in mind, one of the things that always comes to me is what are we really doing for the well-being of so many of these children, as well as teachers who come from these communities? And we often see that mental health and well-being are treated as some sort of afterthought, but they really are essential if we want to have any kind of learning to happen. And in the last couple of years, we've seen social emotional learning become so prominent in curriculums and programs around the world. I'm seeing SEL make its way into the education system in so many ways. While that is so heartening, I also am aware that it starts to become a little bit of a buzzword and like rather than something that is uh, essential for the holistic growth and development of children. One thing that I want to say is, given how volatile so many of the world political contexts are, the children who grow up in this current climate grow up with a lot of chronic stress and trauma, and the fact that we are not actually addressing them in our systems right now. And if you look at COVID and the impact that it's had years, children and teachers are among the worst affected. So we are right now trying to build our system back. We're not doing so through a very kind and radically different culture. We are trying to go back to systems that existed earlier, but those are systems that were failing us. So some of the things that we need to really reimagine or think differently are, what kind of culture am I building in my school or my classroom or even in my world? Is it really inclusive of everybody, or is it just being used as a place where there is still more and more discrimination and exclusion that's happening? Uh, even when I think about SEL, I think about how so much of it is taught in silos and in isolation, as if we can just mindfulness our way out of all of the really horrible things that's happening in the world. Certainly we need to teach our kids emotional regulation, emotional awareness, help them cultivate kindness, compassion, collaboration. Yes, definitely. But I do think that we have to remember that we cannot prescribe individual mental health and well-being as a solution for systemic challenges and struggles. So addressing it at a systemic level is so important, and which is why I often look to liberatory education as a framework for addressing these systemic things. Right. So thinking about, say, a culturally responsive form of learning where there are multicultural influences, where we are able to respect and honor and bring a lot of dignity to different shared cultures, shared identities, and community, really helps children see that everyone on earth, non-living things, nature that we share our world with, comes from a place of inherent value and dignity, and helps children see that there is inherent humanity in all of us and everybody that we live with. Because this is missing, we have ended up living in a very toxic uh, culture across the world, not just in India, around the world. But so I definitely believe that having a multicultural, relational, and liberatory framework and approach for education really will help address a lot of the challenges that we're seeing today with well-being. Uh, and definitely looking at systems rather than individual prescriptions for our challenges is so important.
Thank you much, Sowmya. I could hear from you finally very well. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone, Akansha, Goutham, Shinichi, and Sowmya for sharing your stories from your experience. And now it's time. So at the end, I would like to summarize our event, showing one video to share. So the theme of our session was the future shape of education, and we talked on social and political factors in educational system and stakeholder engagement, DABE, and technologies and innovations. These would be definitely important factors to shape our next education. But I will not make a conclusion, because we have a lot of perspectives to improve our educational systems, and what we have discussed here could be just one of a solution to shape the next future education. And what I'm going to share right now is such a great short video that poses very critical and very authentic question to all of you, to you panelists and audience. So I would like to summarize this event showing this video.
Albert Einstein once said, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today on trial we have modern day schooling. Glad you could come. Not only does he make fish climb trees, but also makes them climb down and do a 10-mile run. Tell me, school, are you proud of the things you've done? Turning millions of people into robots, do you find that fun? Do you realize how many kids relate to that fish swimming upstream in class, never finding their gifts, thinking they are stupid, believing they are useless? Well, the time has come, no more excuses. I call school to the stand and accuse him of killing creativity, individuality, and being intellectually abusive. He's an ancient institution that has outlived his usage. So, Your Honor, this concludes my opening statement, and if I may present the evidence of my case, I will prove it. Proceed. Exhibit A. Here's a modern-day phone. Recognize it? Here's a phone from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Stay with me. Here's a car from today, and here's a car from 150 years ago. Big difference, right? Well, get this. Here's a classroom of today, And here's a class we used 150 years ago. Now ain't that a shame? In literally more than a century, nothing has changed. Yet you claim to prepare students for the future? But with evidence like that, I must ask, do you prepare students for the future or the past? I did a background check on you and let the record show that you were made to train people to work in factories, which explains why you put students in straight rows, nice and neat, tell them sit still, raise your hand if you want to speak, give them a short break to eat, and for 8 hours a day, tell them what to think. Oh, and make them compete to get an A letter which determines product quality, hence grade A of meat. I get it. Back then, times were different. We all have a past. I myself am no Gandhi. But today, we don't need to make robot zombies. The world has progressed. And now we need people who think creatively, innovatively, critically, independently, with the ability to connect. See, every scientist will tell you that no two brains are the same. And every parent with 2 or more children will confirm that claim. So please explain why you treat students like cookie cutter frames or snapback hats, giving them this one-size-fits-all crap.
Watch your language.
Sorry, Your Honor. But if a doctor prescribed the exact same medicine to all of his patients, the results will be tragic. So many people would get sick, yet when it comes to school, this is exactly what happens, this educational malpractice, where one teacher stands in front of 20 kids, each one having different strengths, different needs, different gifts, different dreams, and you teach the same thing the same way? That's horrific. Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant should not be acquitted. This may be one of the worst criminal offenses ever to be committed. And let's mention the way you treat your employees.
Objection. Overruled. I want to hear this.
It's a shame. I mean, teachers have the most important job on the planet, yet they're underpaid. No wonder so many students are short-changed. Let's be honest. Teachers should earn just as much as doctors, because a doctor can do heart surgery and save the life of a kid. But a great teacher can reach the heart of that kid and allow him to truly live. See, teachers are heroes that often get blamed, but they're not the problem. They work in a system without many options or rights. Curriculums are created by policymakers, most of which have never taught a day in their life. Just obsessed with standardized tests. They think bubbling in a multiple choice question will determine success. That's outlandish. In fact, these tests are too crude to be used and should be abandoned, but don't take my word for it. Take Frederick J. Kelly, the man who invented standardized testing, who said, and I quote, "These tests are too crude to be used and should be abandoned." Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if we continue down this road, the results will be lethal. I don't have much faith in school, but I do have faith in people. And if we can customize healthcare, cars, and Facebook pages, then it is our duty to do the same for education, to upgrade it, change it, do away with school spirit, because that's useless. Unless we're working to bring the spirit out of each and every student, that should be our task. No more Common Core. Instead, let's reach the core of every heart in every class. Sure, math is important, but no more than art or dance. Let's give every gift an equal chance. I know this sounds like a dream, but countries like Finland are doing impressive things. They have shorter school days. Teachers make a decent wage. Homework is non-existent, and they focus on collaboration instead of competition. But here's the kicker, boys and girls. Their educational system outperforms every other country in the world. Other places like Singapore are succeeding rapidly. Schools like Montessori, programs like Khan Academy, there is no single solution. But let's get moving, because while students may be 20% of our population, they are 100% of our future. So let's attend to their dreams, and there's no telling what we can achieve. This is a world in which I believe. A world where fish are no longer forced to climb trees. I'll rest my case.
Oh yeah, so thank you so much everyone watching till the end of the video and also till the end of our session. Well, you can watch this video again if you search "I Sue the School System." This is very critical and harsh in a way, but this video really pose a good theme, which is that we definitely need a change and update our education. And as the guy in the video told us, the young people, like students learning in the school, are the 100% of our future who are going to shape the world. So thank you again so much for coming to our session. This is our end, and my apology that it has passed a little bit after 5 p.m. in India, right? So I really hope that you would enjoy the rest of your day and have a good evening, and hope to see you again. Thank you also all the panelists for coming, and I'm really honored to have all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining in here. It was a great conversation, and it was very nice to hear all the thoughts you have shared, and hope to do a lot of collaboration in future if we can work together as well.
Thank you, Pranav.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care everyone. Great.